Good morning, everyone. Before we start, and again, I'm so thankful that they are here every Monday, but I do have proclamation citations for our sign language individuals, young ladies who do a fantastic job. Yeah, surprise. So the first one, the City of Springfield, Massachusetts, mayoral citation honoring Joan Watman. I, Dominic J. Sarno, Mayor of the City of Springfield, do hereby confer upon you this citation in recognition of your dedication and service to the City of Springfield as an ASL deaf interpreter for our city's COVID-19 coronavirus situational update briefings. On behalf of the residents and the great city of Springfield, we wish to acknowledge and recognize your service to our community. Thank you and wish you continued success and good health. And I signed by myself, Dominic Sarno, and I wrote here, you've been great. Thank you so much. Good health and God bless. So Joan, that is for you. Can you walk tonight? Okay. We have the same for Kendra Timko Hodgkeppel. Did I pronounce that correctly? Yes. They did okay on that. So this is the same thing. I, Dominic J. Sarno, Mayor of the City of Springfield, do hereby confer upon you this citation in recognition of your dedication and service to the City of Springfield as an ASL and deaf interpreter of our city's COVID-19 coronavirus situation update briefings. On behalf of the residents of our great City of Springfield, wish to acknowledge and recognize your service to our community. Thank you, and we wish you continued success and good health. And again, signed by myself, and I hand wrote, you've been great, and thank you so much. Good health and God bless. I didn't forget you. City of Springfield, Massachusetts, mayoral citation honoring Stephanie Clark. I, Dominic J. Sarno, Mayor of the City of Springfield, do hereby confer upon you this citation in recognition of your dedication and service to the City of Springfield as an ASL deaf interpreter for our city's COVID-19 coronavirus situational update briefings. On behalf of the residents of our great City of Springfield, we wish to acknowledge and recognize your service to our community. Thank you and wish you continued success and good health. Signed by myself, Mayor Dominic J. Sarno. And again, I hand wrote here, you've been great. Thank you so much. Good health and God bless. That concludes our press conference. We need a little levity. Well, the weekend numbers are getting better, knock on wood, which is good. We had 8 Friday, 15 Saturday, 22 Sunday, so the weekend total was 45 for a total, and again, Helen's been great. The Maven system's running a little up and down, wacky at times. Confirmed COVID-19 cases since the onslaught of this back in March, 3,654. The deaths, knock on wood, we have stayed the same. One is too many, but 132 deaths. And again, our sympathies, thoughts, and prayers and encouragement go out to the families of the affected members who lost loved ones. It stays status quo with the number. White is 57 at 43.2%. Black is 31 at 23.5%. Hispanic is 42 at 31.8%. And Asians is at 2 at 1.5%. Commissioner Helen Carlton Harris indicates, again, senior meals continue to be delivered to our seniors who are in need. She will stress once again, flu shots. Please get those flu shots. Many are free of charge. Mitigation's a key, mitigation of masks. She's going to speak to you about The holiday seasons are coming up right now, and you're really going to have to limit your home holiday gatherings. The numbers continue to trend. She'll speak of that, and I believe Dr. Kerouac and Dr. Roos will speak of it too, but our numbers are showing 30 years and under, it's encompassing 39% of the positive COVID-19 tests. 31 to 50 years old, 37%. That's 76%, 50 or under. So the numbers have shifted drastically from the beginning of this COVID-19. So no one is, especially our young people, think they're invincible. They are not. Going back to the deaths, again, that stays status quo. 75 deaths have occurred residential, long care facilities 57, and the trend continues to be clusters, neighborhoods, homes and house gatherings. Helen will speak more. The zip codes continue to show high 00108, 00104, 00109. Helen will speak a little bit more on the PSAs, the public service ads we're going to be doing with the state money coming in, and she'll speak to you about the travel orders also. I'd like to send out another congratulations to our very own Dr. Mark Kerouac, Business West Healthcare Hero Award. Congratulations. Helen will speak a little more, but again, Governor Baker has been fantastic, as has AMR, the Stop the Spread. I don't believe all communities are taking advantage of it. We asked for it. We will be extending, and again, thank you to Governor Baker and Health and Human Services Secretary Mary Lou Sutters and Lieutenant Governor Polito. We will be extending, thanks to Governor Baker, extending the Stop the Spread testing to at least January 15th, 2021. And here's to 2020 in the rearview mirror into a much better 2021. So AMR will be the major with Patrick Leonardo, thank you, operations manager here, is going to be the major lead on that. So we're going to continue to extend that testing, and that's for asymptomatic. I'd also like to thank my commissioner, election commissioner Gladys Loyola and team. Saturday, they did a great job. Early voting started at City Hall. No issues at all. Matter of fact, a lot of compliments on being able to come vote early. So Gladys, I'm not surprised. And to you and your team, thank you very, very much. I want to thank DPW Director Chris Signoli and Fire Commissioner B.J. Calvary. They kept me constantly updated on the Covanta compost fire, landfill fire there, many a times right from the scene throughout the weekend. And I appreciate that. They will speak more of it. The landfill for residents, the city of Springfield, is closed until Wednesday. Director Signoli indicates to me. Your yard waste probably didn't get picked up Friday. We sent out. That is going to be picked up today. So we sent notice on that. This is the residential houses in Springfield. I want to let the people know that the Covanta officials will be in very shortly to sit down with me. DEP and the state fire marshal now become involved in the investigation. But we want, the main thing, as I indicated in sending out a statement late that night, was we want to find out what occurred, what made it happen, what's going to be done so it doesn't happen again. And then also, I want to thank all the regional fire departments who have been there night and day, and to our Springfield Fire Department and DPW workers too. We are going to go after reimbursement and cost. I assume those other departments will also be going on to that, and I believe BJ, your old stomping grounds at Agawam, Chief Soroy, who really was the command on that, and spoke with Mayor Sapelli a couple times too. So thank you to everybody. They'll update you. They believe it's really been knocked down tremendously now, but I'll let Director Signoli and Commissioner Calvary update you on that. The Commissioner Clapper, maybe she'll speak of it. She'll be meeting. She's part of the Big City Chiefs in Massachusetts. She'll be with U.S. Attorney Andrew Lelling this Wednesday, Chief Grouse, also on our continued attack of gun violence and getting these guns off the street. and I appreciate that. I also appreciate Commissioner Clapper and our dedicated men and women in blue. It is absolutely obnoxious, the motorcycle noises that are emanating not only in our downtown areas, but in our neighborhood areas. This is more than, these are souped up, illegal exhaust and exhaust systems that are putting forth muffler systems, and they're even activating our shot spotters now. And I think Helen and I did a Zoom meeting Wednesday night for the neighborhood councils, and with the windows open in City Hall. It was terrible. Superintendent Warwick and I had school committee meeting Thursday night. It was 10 times as worse. And this is happening at times in the neighborhood. So there's the Chapter 90 rules of the road, which our police department can utilize, and state police. That might be another tool in their tool belt to be able to whether fine, arrest, or confiscate these bikes. This is not the normal idling exhaust. This is being done on purpose. It is absolutely disrespectful and is obnoxious, and again, it's quality of life. So we're going to try to go after any and all, and hopefully if we can make a case, the courts will stand by us on that. Commissioner Clapper indicates to me that there is one down with COVID-19. It wasn't a bad weekend. They had, she'll speak about a party van that gun arrests were made there. There was a Grover Street shooting, seems to be a home invasion, cooperating, so we have leads there. Working with our ATF, a major raid was made in Springfield and West Side. We grouped 4 arrests, 5 major guns taken off the streets. And as I said before, as we look to continue to diversify police services, whether internally or outside more with Commissioner Helen Carlton-Harris, Commissioner Clapwood has beefed up the mental health outreach. We've now doubled on BHN. There's even more workers going on the street now to try to cope with mental health issues, homelessness issues, and drug issues. So she has increased that BHN, which go out with our police officers, so I appreciate that. Commissioner Calvary indicates, besides obviously having their hands tied up with the Covanta landfill issue, there was nobody down in COVID-19, which is very good. Superintendent Warwick on the schools. Meals are well over 3.6 million meals being served to our students and families. That is breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. The Oasis Food Bank continues with John Foley and the Western Mass Food Bank at Central High School every Friday. About 3,500 families. We help out there, meats and fruits, vegetables, milk. Also, we continue to review with our industrial hygienist, Bob Kirshner, Pat Sullivan, Superintendent Warwick, Pat with all the buildings, and also all our school buildings, so we're looking to put forward that report very shortly. Superintendent will speak to you. We have to pause our sports that are going on right now because of a COVID positive testing. He'll also report to you the remote teaching. The attendance with the student body is 92%, which is pretty good. They continue their recovery phase on the ransom attack. iPads continue to go out to our pre-K students. Facilities and Parks, Pat Sullivan. He continues his overall review of all the buildings, including schools, with Bob Kirshner. Arena is still shut down as they do the cleaning. Once that's clarified, we'll try to get that back open, as we will with the school sports. We had a presentation made. I was part of that with Helen and Pat and others. UV lighting that we're looking on cleaning aspects. Presentation made Friday afternoon. Maybe one of the caveats we can move to. And non-COVID, again, we continue. We're the top school district in the Commonwealth when it comes to building new schools and rehabbing new schools. Over $600 million has been done. But with the MSBA now, I believe we're pursuing Sci-Tech and Talmadge for the new windows on that. DPW, Director Signoli, besides being 24/7 on the landfill issue, which again, that is privately run. That is not the city of Springfield. COVID-19, nobody is down, which is good. And as we stated before, I'll remind you that residential yard waste, which was supposed to be picked up Friday, could not be done. It's going to be picked up today. Monday, we put that out. He'll give you an update on the landfill fire. And finances, CAFO TJ plan indicates to me, again, we're down since the start of this COVID-19 back in March, about 5.9. We're down about $1 million on FY21. Again, if you start to translate those costs of not being able to really have hotels and restaurants fully open, you're looking at, if it plays out, $84.8 million hit, 23 on the hotel side and 62 on the restaurant side if this continues to play out. Governor Baker put his budget out. It's pretty much status quo with us. We don't get hurt directly at all. We do need that federal influx of money because even if we're able to hang on for FY21, FY22, FY23, FY24 will be difficult and challenging. The Chief Development Officer Tim Sheen, Echo Dev, they're doing a lot of the administration side of the contracting, all the money that we have out there, and working with Ed Pikula, Timmy, myself, and my Chief of Staff, Tom Ash, GM discussions continue with Ed, and then my HR Labor Director, Bill Mahoney, indicates unemployment is Massachusetts ticked down to 9.6, down from 11.4 in August. Springfield's numbers have yet to come in. So with that, I am always very, very appreciative that Dr. Mark Kerouac, the CEO and President of Bay State Health Systems, and Dr. Robert Roos, the Chief Medical Officer of Mercy Hospital, Trinity Healthcare, always make the time to be here every Monday for these COVID-19 situational press conference updates with my cabinet heads. We've worked very closely together in concert to make sure that if and when an uptick occurs, we have the capacities with our world-class hospitals that are here. They will come up after they make their presentations, as we've been doing lately. Questions from the media will be taken for them so they can get back to their respected establishment and the important work they need to do. With that, I will now bring up the President and CEO of Bay State Health Systems, Dr. Mark Kerouac. And remember to be generous and donate. Rays of Hope. Let's beat this breast cancer. City Hall, we do ours this Thursday. Dr. Mark Kerouac.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for holding the event and for the cooperation of your team and for the many times you've walked in Rays of Hope. I've walked beside you. Your support has been fabulous. Well, the news has not been great around COVID. COVID cases are increasing across the world, across the nation, across the state, and in Western Mass. We've passed the 40 million mark globally, the 8 million mark in the United States, and the 140,000 mark in Massachusetts. Looking at the town-by-town breakdown, the public health report, the last several weeks we've gone from 17 to 63 of the 351 towns and municipalities in the state have gone into the red zone, including this most recent report, Springfield, Holyoke, East Longmeadow, Sunderland, as well as the big cities, Boston and Worcester. Hampden County has seen about 9,000 cases, more than 9,000 cases, and its rate of new COVID cases is 8 cases per day per 100,000 population. So if all of Hampden County was a single town, it would be red. The yellow zone, by the way, is 4 to 8, and green is less than 4. And for the first time in about 6 weeks at Bay State, we have more than 20 patients in our inpatient units, only 1 in our ICU. So it does appear that the surge in cases, mostly in younger people, is now beginning to be reflected in hospitalized patients who are more elderly and at higher risk. I really don't have a lot new to report about testing, PPE, our ability to surge. We're still feeling comfortable about that, or the various treatments that are out there. With these increasing numbers, there has been a buzz in the press and elsewhere about a possible lockdown, or at least reversing our reopening plan. I want to say that I do not favor that. The new cases these past few weeks, as the mayor has mentioned, have been predominantly in younger and lower risk individuals, and they've most often been acquired in private social settings or gatherings, parties, etc. Retail establishments and restaurants have been doing a good job in staying open, following the guidelines, and not promoting the spread of the virus. So, shutting down retail if the spread is occurring in private gatherings doesn't make any sense at all to me, and in fact might make the situation worse. I wasn't able to be with you last Tuesday because we were having our Board of Trustees meeting, our virtual Board of Trustees meeting, and shortly after that, one of the trustees sent to me a picture of a family around the Thanksgiving Day table and said, how are we going to do this in the era of COVID? And it got me to thinking, how does one have a Halloween party or a Thanksgiving dinner without turning it into a super spreading event? Based on the parties we've been hearing about in Western Mass, I think we are not getting through to some people, that's for sure. I think in a sense it may be like prohibition, where once you've decided to take a pass on the guidance, you might as well go all the way. There have been a record number of complaints about private parties in Boston, and I know Mayor Walsh has been threatening to clamp down. It seems to me that a number of people have not been heeding the messages that Dr. Roos and I have been trying to get out there, so I wanted to try a different approach today, and I think for this I'm going to actually take my mask off because I'm trying to reach a different audience. Rather than saying what you shouldn't do in order to stay safe, I'm going to assume that many of you who are listening have decided to take the risk anyways of having a party or a gathering. And what could you do to lower your risk of its becoming a super spreader event? The key point here is that risk is not like an on-off switch. There is a middle ground between total lockdown and being a super spreader. You can make things safer instead of throwing caution to the winds. Think about it as if you were deciding to drive in a snowstorm. If you decided that you needed to go, that you needed to drive for whatever reason, there are some things that you could do to lower your risk. You probably wouldn't take a drink before going. You probably wouldn't text while you were driving. You'd slow down and you'd leave extra distance. So there are things you can do to mitigate your risk. So mindful that the safest thing to do is to have no gathering or to have it virtually. Here's what I would do if I decided that somehow the party must go on, and there are 7 steps I'm going to suggest. The first is make a plan. People plan menus, people plan decorations. These days, if you're having a gathering, you should plan for safety. Number 2, you and the attendees coming should try to lie low for a week or 2 before the big event. You could catch the virus at some party you really could skip the week before and end up shedding the virus during the big event. So try to lie low in anticipation. You might even consider getting a test a few days before the event, but as any of you reading the news knows, there are false negatives as far as these tests go, but still, it could be helpful. Number 3, consider the amount of virus where the event is being held. Is it a red, a yellow, or a green zone? And also where the guests are coming from. This might not be the best time to invite your cousin from Wisconsin to join the party, or your cousin from one of the red-hot cities in Eastern Mass. And I'm sad to say, at least even today, that it's safer to have a gathering in Pittsfield than it is in Springfield. That's why it's always good to work to bring the numbers down. It means we can do more at a lower risk if the baseline numbers are low. Number 4, think about the location. We've been saying for a long time that outside is better than inside, but I know winter's coming. Given that, big rooms are certainly better than small, and better ventilated rooms are better than rooms that are closed in. So opening a window makes a lot of sense. You might even want to think about having your gathering in a restaurant where they're able to observe or implement a lot of things you might not be able to do at home. Number 5, think about the people who are attending. How many? Smaller crowds, of course, are better than larger crowds. Are there any people at high risk? People who are elderly, obese, high blood pressure, diabetes, maybe they should think twice about coming. Are there people with symptoms? They probably should stay away. I realize that 40% or so of spread comes from people with no symptoms at all, or people before they have symptoms. But if you have cough, fever, sniffles, etc., not a good time to go with a big crowd. And then finally, sixth, think about the event itself. How long is it going to go? Shorter is better than longer. How much can you avoid close contact, like hugging or kissing? Maybe you don't want to wear masks for the whole event, but trying to keep distance will be helpful. And remember, particularly if it's a Halloween party, maybe you can figure out a way to make masks part of the fun. Cloth masks work better, of course, than the old-fashioned Halloween masks, which do nothing to stop the spread of the virus. Loud talking and singing can spread the virus more effectively. In terms of serving food, a single server with plated offerings is much better than a buffet, and hopefully that server is washing their hands. And finally, how do you know you're going to stick to the plan? Think about the designated driver approach people use in bars. You might want to have some person or people to keep an eye on things, particularly if alcohol is involved, so people don't forget all the good intentions they had at the beginning of the gathering. Now, I have just described for you probably one of the strangest holiday gatherings you may have ever had in your entire life. But the more of these things you do, the safer you're going to be. I would think about it like a dimmer switch on a light. If you must have an event, try to do as many of these things as possible. And perhaps when you think of all the things that you're going to have to do, having a virtual event may not seem so bad. Now, these comments that I've just made have been drawn from the CDC website and a number of different state websites, including Massachusetts, and they represent my own personal opinions. If you decide to have an event, just like if you decide to go out and drive in a snowstorm, there are no guarantees, but do your best to stay safe. And of course, the best thing we can do to make viral levels lower in advance of the holidays in our communities is to do the things that I always talk about, and Dr. Roos always talks about. Wear your mask, keep your distance, wash your hands, get a flu shot. Thank you, and make sure you get out and vote as well. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Kerouac. Sound advice, again. And now Dr. Robert Roos, the Chief Medical Officer for Mercy Hospital Trinity Healthcare, will give his situational update. Doctor?
Well, thank you, Mayor. Thanks for your leadership. And I want to acknowledge and recognize Dr. Kerouac for the award on behalf of Business West as a healthcare hero. It has been a tremendous honor to collaborate, and we've been all benefited from his leadership amidst this pandemic. I also want to thank everyone who's continued to put safety first and is doing what you can do to help prevent the spread and put our communities collectively here back towards the green and all of us on track to full recovery. I could not agree more with the remarks that Dr. Kerouac just made, as we are yet again at a critical juncture with this pandemic. And it is the simple things that we can do, the masking, the physical distancing, and the quarantining when sick, as well as reducing our own individual risks, that has proven to be the pathway to better health, to better wealth within our community, and to getting back to normal. I also found the analogy to driving in a storm very apropos, and we don't confer before these press conferences, but we do think very similarly. The pandemic for us is really like driving that car on a highway in a storm with little visibility, not really knowing where your risks may lie when you go around a corner or you approach a light. Right now, for each of us, we are driving that car, and there is a yellow light that is blinking ahead. We only have so much time to make this decision. We only have so much time to decide what is right to do, because the car is moving pretty quickly. What we do in this moment individually does have an impact on ourselves, but also can have an impact on the lives of others. So do we follow the guidance that's been set out that helps support public health and public safety? Do we keep our seatbelt on? Do we heed the caution light? Do we wait to go through until you can see more clearly ahead? Or do we go through the light, despite the fact that we can't quite see if other cars are coming or if the road takes a sharp turn? You are driving this car. Each of us is driving this car. We have our hands on that wheel. None of us know the precise risk in that situation or in any situation, but we all recognize there is some level of risk, and there are some potential consequences in each decision that we make, and sometimes that decision is a split-second decision. There may have also been times when you've blown through that yellow light and nothing has happened, except that your heart may have raced a little bit, but you yourself may not have been hurt, your car was fine, and it was a near miss. But there could be other times, or perhaps there have been other times, when the outcome has been more tragic, when there's been a fender bender and your car hit the pole, or your car went off a cliff, or even worse yet, a 10-car pileup with multiple fatalities. As a society, we've decided, and by and large we all follow, that there's a common set of guidelines and actions that help us in those moments when we see that yellow blinking light. Help us all stay safe. We wear a seatbelt when we get in the car. We put our kids in safety seats. We follow the speed limit and we heed the traffic signs. We don't drive drunk, and we would prevent someone else who was drinking to do the same. And we slow down when we see danger ahead, or stop when a pedestrian's crossing. Sometimes we do these things very consciously and deliberately, like perhaps stopping the individual who's been drinking from driving. And other times we do them almost reflexively, like putting your seatbelt on when you get in the car. Rarely, if ever, in this day and age would we consider those things major disruptions to our normal life. And if we did, like stopping the drinking person from driving, we would do it for the greater good. And as a result, the number of people who have died from car crashes has dropped by 50% in the last 4 decades. Hundreds of thousands of lives are saved by those actions and others. Hundreds of thousands of lives have been saved. This is precisely the nature and the work of public health, where science can inform strategies to reduce the risk, like the steps that Dr. Kerouac just mentioned, that reduce the individual harm or risk with any given situation. And then we can take individual or collective action to do that. I mentioned last week that this pandemic has been like a roller coaster. The epidemiologic curve going up and down and higher again, up and down, and now we're on our 3rd wave of rising infections across the country. But we still have the basic public health approach and strategy at our disposal in order to prevent us from going further off the rails. We just have to heed that yellow caution light. At Mercy, we've seen slightly higher numbers of hospitalized patients over the past few weeks and higher numbers of positive tests. As of this morning, we have 3 hospitalized patients, with 1 in the ICU, but we had as many as 6 on one day last week. And our test positivity rate has climbed from 1% up to 2.2% last week. Dr. Kerouac mentioned the trends across the Commonwealth. We've seen hospitalized patients go from 300 to 500, leveling out a little bit in the past week, largely due to shorter stays in the hospital. And while the overall test positivity rate has stayed at 1.2%, the percentage of people that have been tested has been between 4 and 5% over the last week. And there's now more than 63 communities in the red zone. And as we approach the winter, it's only getting colder, which means that more people are going to be indoors, confronted with the decisions regarding the holidays, in close contact with others, and potentially at risk for further community spread. And I want to be clear this morning that the option that has been raised at some points over the last week of achieving herd immunity through natural infection is not a scientifically or a morally defensible option at this point. Last week, there was a letter published on behalf of multiple public health agencies in The Lancet, one of the world's most respectable medical journals, titled the John Snow Memorandum. And there was an op-ed in the Washington Post from Dr. Tom Frieden, the former director of the CDC. Both were very clear to state that this is no place and we are in no position to rely on herd immunity through natural infection alone. There could be as many as another 500,000 deaths if that were the pathway that were chosen. We have too long to go, and there's too much at stake. And the reality is that uncontrolled transmission of the virus amongst young people, while it may not impact them as often or as severely as the elders earlier in the pandemic, can still pose significant health risks. It can lead to a syndrome called long COVID, and it can also create risks for morbidity and mortality amongst those of us for which we would be more vulnerable. Additionally, the impact on the healthcare system and all of the workforce could be devastating. Imagine millions and millions and millions of more infections. The people that are out, the toll emotionally, physically, and mentally on our healthcare workforce. And third, there still is no clear evidence on the length of time of immunity from a natural infection. We know, and there have been cases of reinfection, and there's still a lot we have to learn about who and when that could be possible. So if we relied on natural infection, it could just create successive waves of worse devastation. So as I see it, it's quite simple. We must act now to continue to control and seek to eradicate infections. At Mercy, we continue to take this pandemic seriously, as we have from the very beginning. We recognize the impact that it's had on everyone's lives, from worsening health to lives lost, to lost jobs, to mental stress and anguish and disruption to all of our routines. We also recognize that people are tired. They're very tired. We are all experiencing some level of what has been called pandemic fatigue. We wish we didn't have to wear a mask anymore. We wish we could get together with friends and family like we once did. We wish we could do the activities like we did a year and a half ago. And I don't blame you. I feel the same thing. I worry about my 1-year-old and what it would be like when he goes to school if this didn't change. This has been one of the most stressful years imaginable, with tragedy, uncertainty, change, and division. It's okay to be tired. It's exhausting, both mentally and physically and spiritually. But at this juncture, it's not okay to give up. Our health, our livelihoods, they remain in the balance. And so we at Mercy have suggested our colleagues and to you as the community to consider a couple of simple but important tips to help combat this pandemic fatigue. First, consider making a personal commitment and stating that to somebody you know and trust. I recommend that you tell somebody about it, just like you would if you were engaging in any other significant behavior change, like losing weight or quitting smoking. State, if I'm going to be indoors, I'm going to wear a mask if I'm around others, unless the public health experts stop recommending it. Secondly, practice, practice, practice until it becomes habit. The more you wear a mask, the more you practice physical distancing, the more it will become like second nature, just like buckling that seatbelt when you get in your car, or slowing down when you see the yellow light. Third, be sure to keep the supplies on hand and your networks supportive. Keep a mask in your car in case you end up going to the store or seeing somebody you weren't expecting. Make sure that you keep your supplies ready so it's not an inconvenience. It doesn't become a nuisance anymore if it's part of your plan. And surround yourself with people who won't judge for the steps that you take for your own health or for others. And that's a good lesson for any behavior change. And lastly, Think about and be kind to the people who have been impacted by this disease or are at risk of being impacted. I know each time that I put on a mask, I think about my wife's aunt who died from this disease, or I think about a close family member who's battling cancer or who would be at risk if they contracted it. I think of the hundreds of thousands of people who have succumbed and the millions who may have lingering symptoms or concerns in the future. And that's why I offer these 4 simple suggestions of how you can shift how it feels for you. We've done this before many times over in society, in our communities. We've done it with reducing car crashes, like I mentioned. We've done it with changing where and when people can smoke and removing it from being indoors. We've done it with washing our hands before we eat. All things that at one point seemed so outrageous, seemed so disruptive to what we wanted to do or we thought our individual freedoms. But in reality, each of those has brought us more liberty to be able to do what we wish to do with good health. So think of the actions like masking, physical distancing, or just staying home if you're sick, like the seatbelt, like your headlights in a storm, or like the speed limit. We're at a critical juncture. We're at a very critical point in the pandemic. It's time to reinforce these efforts that have slowed the transmission so we can all keep on keeping on. We are here for you. We have safe and accessible care for you. Please do what you can to help support our public health as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roos. Now we'll take questions for Dr. Kerouac and Dr. Roos from the media. Paul?
Just curious on how,
Dr. Kerouac?
just curious on how your hospitals are situated with PPE, since you're seeing case numbers climb now, what your current status is as far as PPE.
Yeah, we have several weeks' supply. We've tried to maintain secure supply chains, but with case numbers going up across the country, I think we hit 70,000 in a single day over the weekend. You have to worry that those supply chains may be threatened. For the moment, we're doing okay. We always worry about it.
Same thing. Well, we've been tracking our PP utilization of each of the different items since the beginning of the pandemic with how many days on hand. We have more than 30 days of everything, and in some cases, much beyond that.
I just want to confirm, you said 20 patients right now. Is that across the Bay State system?
21 across the Bay State system.
It's not just in Springfield, then?
I believe they're all in Springfield with 1 in intensive care. Yeah, we had a few in the community hospitals in the last several days, but as of this morning, I think all of our positive cases were at Springfield.
Actually, is there any protocol for like any anybody to be transferred to Bay State Medical Center from some of the community hospitals? I'm watching the
Yes,
numbers,
depending on the severity of the illness. If it looks like they're going to be stable and just need nasal oxygen, inspired oxygen, and isolation, they'll remain in the community hospitals. And we've had 2, 3, 4 patients in any one of our community hospitals during the course of the pandemic. But if there's a worry that they might deteriorate and require the intensive care unit, then they get transferred.
Any other questions of Dr. Kerouac and Dr. Roos? Okay, gentlemen, thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Mr. Mayor.
All your efforts, and stay healthy, you and your family. Well, now I will bring up the Commissioner of Health and Human Services for the City of Springfield, our Dr. Anthony Fauci, Helen Carlton Harris.
Let me start by thanking you, as always, Mayor Sarno, and I know you don't want thanks, but you deserve it. So the Massachusetts, first of all, let me stop and congratulate Dr. Kerouac as well. Bay State is certainly very important to this state, and his leadership has been invaluable. So congratulations to Dr. Kerouac. In Massachusetts, there are 140,647 confirmed cases. In Hampden County, that's 9,074. In the city of Springfield, that's 3,654. The statewide deaths are 9,737, and the deaths in Hampden County are 798. The city of Springfield has had 132 individuals who have succumbed to this virus. I'm going to spend just a moment breaking out the cases by ages and zip code for the city of Springfield. First of all, I think you can see the chart that is to my left. On Monday, there were 18 cases. On Tuesday, 10 cases. Wednesday, 24. Thursday, 11. Friday, 8. Saturday, 14. And Sunday had 22 cases. When we break that out by age, 0 to 10-year-olds, there were 12. 11 to 20-year-olds, there were 16. 21 to 30-year-olds, 14. 31 to 40-year-olds, 20. 41 to 50-year-olds, 19. 51 to 60, 14. 61 to 78. 71 to 82. 81 to 92. Now, the important thing about those ages from 61 to 90 is that potentially those are the individuals who could wind up hospitalized because they are in that high-risk age group. Those individuals are the ones that we look at and get concerned about as far as potential hospitalizations are concerned. Breaking out the data even further as far as ages are concerned, if we take a look at what we're seeing in our city, 39% of the individuals who have a COVID-19 positive diagnosis were under the age of 30. And then you look at the next age group, which is the 31 to 50, that is 37% of the age group. And then 51 and over is 24%. And as the mayor said to you, we know that 76% of the cases that we saw last week in the city of Springfield were under the age of 50 years old. And we continue to point that out because we think that it's important that we put these ages up so that you can see from the city's perspective where our risk factors are. Further, as far as zip codes are concerned, I lost my individual. Molly was with me last week and she helped me enormously. And so when we look at zip codes, we can start with 01101, 2 cases. There were none in 01103. 01104 had 19 cases. 01105, 9 cases. 01107, 7. 01108, 22. 01109, 24. 01118, 3. 01109, 11. 01128, 5. 01129, 3, and 01151, 2. Those are important because if you're looking at this and you recognize your zip code, then I would ask that you consider the impact on your neighborhood and on your families. Finally, to look at our data, thank you. To look at our data, if we break this out by confirmed COVID-19 cases by zip code. I think what you can see is pretty remarkable in that we've continued to talk about 011, 08, and 01109. But look at it again. 01108 is 21% of the cases, 01109, 22% of the cases, and 01104 is 18% of the cases. 01103 had 0 cases, 2%, and 01101, 01151, 2%, 01129, 3%, 01128, 5%, 01119, 10%, 01118, 3%, 01107, 6%, and 01105, 8%. And so, in looking at those ages, I think what's important for the ages for me to point out, that 0 to 10-year-old includes 5-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 1-year-olds, 3-year-olds, and children who are younger than 1 year old, which is important to acknowledge. In that 11 to 20-year-old, we've got 17-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and 20-year-olds. So younger ages, more individuals coming in at risk who are younger, and the majority of the cases that we're seeing in the city of Springfield are under the age of 50. The data is telling us, once again, we have work to do in those age groups, and I would ask those individuals who are under the age of 50, please see yourself in this data. Understand that this virus is impacting everyone, and it is particularly impacting individuals under the age of 50. Our concern really is, as the doctors have noted, using the science. We understand that individuals are going to shed this virus, particularly younger people as well, and then it follows that individuals in our lives who are older could be impacting, and we're seeing that as well. If we're going to stop the spread, and you've heard the car analogy, which is an important one from both of our physicians, it is important that we really do understand we are at a critical juncture, not only in Massachusetts, but across the nation. We continue to contact trace. If you do get a call from one of our contact tracers, please make sure that you are being as upfront as you can as far as who you have been in contact with. Isolation is what we do with individuals who are COVID positive. Quarantine is what we do with individuals who have been in contact with someone who is COVID positive. Please adhere to the recommendations of the contact tracing and those public health experts. Stop the Spread will remain in place until January the 15th. AFC Urgent Care is still doing testing Monday through Friday, 11 to 7, and Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 4. AMR is doing an amazing job. Overall, they've tested 20,162 individuals. Of that, 8,261 were Springfield residents, and 717 of those were positive who were Springfield residents. They will be at Eastville Mall daily, Cottage Street from 9 to 4, and that is by appointment. Bay State Medical is doing testing, and they are doing it at their Carew Street. You can go to their website. That is by appointment. Travel orders. 4 states have been added: California, Hawaii, New Jersey, Washington State, Washington State. They join Connecticut, Washington, D.C., Maine, New Hampshire, New York, and Vermont. If you have relatives coming from any other state other than the ones that I named, they need to have a negative test, or they need to quarantine for 14 days. We are seeing a lot of license plates in the city of Springfield from individuals who are from states that are not exempt, and we would ask, if you do have relatives visiting, please keep yourself and your family safe and understand the risk that's involved. I'm going to spend a minute with Halloween because it's coming up quickly. We have not permitted door-to-door trick-or-treating in the city of Springfield. So we are asking our residents to adhere to what we are asking you to do. We have heard that there are residents who may consider doing trick-or-treating even though at their home and handing out bags even though door-to-door is not permitted. Please, we are doing this for your safety, the safety of our children. You just heard the data that I told you. Children are not immune from this virus, and we want to make sure that the residents of the city of Springfield are safe, so we are not permitting door-to-door. We are not recommending trick-or-treating events where children go from car to car. We are not recommending gatherings or parties with non-household members, and we are not recommending carnivals, festivals, live entertainment, and house attractions that you may visit. And we're doing that because we know that we do not want people in close proximity outdoors. It is important, any event that you do, that you continue to practice social distancing, hand washing, and face coverings. We encourage online parties, car parades that comply with public health, drive-by events where individuals can dress up and decorate their vehicles, and drive-by judges. We are permitting drive-through events where individuals remain in their vehicles and drive through Halloween displays and get a treat bag. We appreciate you limiting your packaging to non-perishable treats. And so we want to, again, just encourage you to do things for Halloween that are safe. We want our children to enjoy Halloween. We are not trying to be punitive. We have to remember we are in the middle of a very serious pandemic. Thanksgiving will change as well, as been noted. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday of the year. I love getting together with my family. Usually there are about 35 to 40 people at my house on Thanksgiving. That's the one holiday I so enjoy. My family comes from across the country to join us for Thanksgiving. That will not happen this year. And it will not happen this year, and it really is very difficult not to have my family around, but this is not the year where we can all feel safe gathering together. One more thing let me say about Halloween. If you are having on a mask as a part of your costume, that is not sufficient to stop the spread of the virus. Please put a mask on underneath your costume mask to make sure that you are definitely safe. We are continuing to do our flu clinics. We did one at St. Catherine's, one at the Ray Jordan Center, and we are scheduling others. We had a call with DPH. They are going to help us with neighborhood ambassadors, PSAs, and we'll continue to meet with the neighborhood councils. It's important to acknowledge that in those neighborhoods that I pointed out, those zip codes 01108, 01109, we will have neighborhood ambassadors with materials and tables that will be outdoors, where we'll be doing outreach to make sure we're getting appropriate information to you. The COVID-19 Cold Weather Task Force continues to meet, and we will do that throughout this season. The social distancing, washing your hands, face covering. Remember, our health is physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional. We're doing everything we can as a city to keep our residents safe. We try to communicate risk communication strategies, telling you the risks of your neighborhood and of your age group. That is why I put these charts up, so you can see yourself and understand that everyone in our city is impacted by this virus. And again, we ask you very humbly to care about yourself, care about others, and make sure you are keeping safe. Our overall goal is population-based. We want to keep our entire city safe, We are doing this because we care deeply, and we're also doing it because we are following the science and we are following prudent public health strategies. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you very much, Helen, and I believe Helen and Commissioner Colton Harris and I will be meeting with the neighborhood councils once again this Thursday evening, and you got to start planning. She brings up some really good advice besides Halloween, Thanksgiving, and I know with my home with Christmas Eve, Italian Americans, that's a big holiday for us. And you're right, Helen, you can't have the 40, 50 people anymore now. So you got to really plan on that, family that you've been with or friends, and for your own good. And hopefully this will be the last year that you have to do that. We're now going to move into the public safety component of this COVID-19 situational update, and I will bring up Fire Commissioner of the City of Springfield, Bernard B.J. Calvary. He looks sharp in his new black wears there.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mayor. On the COVID front, we have no one currently out with the fire department with COVID-related illnesses, so that's a positive, and a huge shout out to the whole rank and file of the fire department for the hard work they're continuing to do. On the Bondi's Island front, I was in contact with the Agawam chief this morning. They're wrapping up operations over there and picking up all the hose, getting everything back in service over there this morning. The fire is under investigation from the State Fire Marshal's office, and hopefully we'll have more on that in the future. But as of now, the fire is basically out and everything is in pickup and recovery mode over there. I have nothing else this week, so everybody have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Calvey. On the police front, we'll now have the Springfield Police Commissioner Cheryl Clapper.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. As the mayor stated, I only have one officer down with COVID at this time. The academy is moving along very well. Last week, successful first week. No one is out. They're into their second week. Unfortunately, it's 26 weeks. It's a long academy, so my fingers are crossed it keeps going the same way. The weekend, Saturday night, just before midnight, officers responded to report of shots fired. There were several shots fired in the area of State and Myrtle Street. By utilizing the department's cameras, we were able to locate 3 suspects who jumped onto a party bus. That bus was stopped at Locust Street. Officers boarded, arrested his 23-year-old Marcan Moriarty of Montgomery Street, placed into custody after a brief struggle. Officers located a firearm and ammunition on Mr. Moriarty. A second individual fought with officers, escaped off the bus. There was a short-foot pursuit where 21-year-old Antonio Vega of Phelan Street was taken into custody on Dickinson Street. He had ammunition on him at the time of the arrest. No firearm was found. Vega has previous firearms arrests in Springfield and attempted murder charges out of Westfield. Moriarty faces numerous firearms charges, and he was booked at 130 Pearl Street. Friday night around 10:20, officers located a 61-year-old gunshot victim on Grover Street. We believe it to be a home invasion. The victim has serious injuries, is expected to survive, and he is cooperating with police officers. Friday morning, it was ATF combined with Springfield and State Police and other task force for the recovery of 5 firearms and more than 12,000 bags or 200 grams of heroin. Search warrants simultaneously served Irving Street in West Springfield, Liberty Street in Springfield, led to 4 arrests. The SPD Narcotics Unit, Emergency Services Unit, and an ATF task force officer took place in those execution of the warrants. As the mayor stated, the mental health calls are seeing a rise and a spike. And as the doctors noted, as far as a pandemic exhaustion and feeling tired, those of us with support around us, just imagine if you don't have that support, how you're starting to feel and starting to wear. I think on the mental health on a lot of people who don't have a support system, we added 2 more BHN workers. It has been a successful operation where BHN goes out with the Springfield Police Department officers so that we have a little bit more tools, if you will, on the tool belt as far as where to place these people and how to help them and how to understand them and try to fix what's going on in their world. So it's been a successful program. It is now being modeled throughout the state, and I'm happy to say that we pioneered it. And I think it was the way to go, and we'll probably have more than 4 BHN workers out there by the end of the year. We also will continue to work on the dirt bike ordinances and the cars with the loud exhausts. There's a operation plan this weekend where we hope to seize some more bikes and write a lot of citations. And I will be going Wednesday, as the mayor mentioned, to Boston to meet with Andrew Lelling from the U.S. Attorneys and from Commissioner Gross from Boston, and a few other chiefs of police. The discussion will be centered around gun violence. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Clapper. On the mental health front, too, and segueing with the CARES money we received, funneled through or facilitated through Community Development and Chief Development Officer Tim Sheehan, you know, we've contracted out too, so I know that Director Sheehan's going to be working with Commissioner Clapper. We have seen an uptick with this COVID-19. People have nowhere to go. Some have obviously mental health issues. Some have drug issues, and we're trying to avoid that they don't start to go into criminal activity. So we'll be hitting those areas again where you start to see some aggressive panhandling. And, you know, we do have areas where we can help these individuals. We cannot force them. We cannot force them. So I commend Commissioner Clapper and Director Sheehan on putting the specialists out there, because sometimes they are able to cajole or get these individuals to say, come with us. And then Helen Shop, you know, soon we'll be making some announcements on that Office of Racial Equity and some street outreach too. So we're trying to work outside the box here, unless it's a criminal type activity. We're trying to avoid that. Well, not speaking of any type of criminal type activity, but I'm going to bring up DPW Director Chris Signoli, who was, he and his team have done yeoman work. I saw the guys early Saturday morning at DPW, the new barrels going out, to give them a shout out. But Chris, just as like with Commissioner Calvary, BJ Calvary, really updating me constantly. Many a times they were on site, morning, noon, night, on the weekend, on this COVID, the landfill there that's privately run. So without further ado, the Director of Department of Public Works, Chris Signoli.
Mayor, thank you. With regard to DPW, we have no employees out with COVID. With regard to the landfill will remain closed through Wednesday with regard to residential drop-off. So we are not allowing residents to come to the landfill to drop off material. Friday's yard waste is being picked up today. The remainder of the week should be as scheduled with the city. As Commissioner Calvi mentioned, the crews up there now are breaking down, and the intent is either the end of the day today or beginning of the day tomorrow, the entire site will be turned back over to Covanta. The landfill land is owned by the city of Springfield. It is run by Covanta through a contract with the city and DPW. The assessment will be ongoing this week and probably into next week as to a cause and the amount of impact that was up there. And all of our other construction activities in the city are ongoing at this point, and will probably continue for another month or so until the colder weather starts. Be happy to answer questions at the end with regard to specific issues at the landfill. As the mayor mentioned, we will be meeting this week, later this week, with Covanta to go over issues at the landfill and a plan moving forward. That is it with regard to DPW. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Signoli. Yeah, and construction is going very well. I was by the Central Street corridor Saturday, and that's coming along. That's going to be a great traffic reconfiguration, but there's construction infrastructure that we have going on throughout the city. And now on the school front, and Superintendent Dan Warwick and his team have done a tremendous job under these trying situations. He will give you an update pertaining to our school system. The Superintendent of Springfield Public Schools, Dan Warwick.
Thank you, Mayor. Morning, everyone. As the mayor said earlier, our meals program has gone extremely well since the closing of schools back in March. We're now up to 3,606,438 meals to families. This weekend alone, we did 93,620. Our distribution is from 18 sites, and it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 2 to 6 at those sites, and they're on our website. We paused our sports program for 2 weeks because we had a positive COVID case, and we're going to reassess it. Very grateful for the work of our Public Health Commissioner, Helen Calton-Harris, and her team working with us on this, but we want to make sure our student athletes are safe. We've had ongoing work since August with an industrial hygienist, Bob Kirshner from O'Reilly Talbot Ocon, doing a complete analysis of all of our buildings relative to airflow. Again, we can't reiterate enough that we do not have an air quality issue in our buildings in the city of Springfield. The remote learning so far, we've been off to a great start. We're averaging over 92% daily attendance, and given the situation we've been facing, that's rather incredible, and a real tribute to our staff that reached out to every family and made sure things were going well. As you know, we've sustained a ransomware attack. We're working to analyze what occurred. We're in the recovery mode from that, and looking to make sure and do an analysis of any information that was attained. Our iPad distribution in the preschool has been ongoing. We're working to get all the iPads out to our preschool students. Really excited about that. And again, we have our outside helpline open to families so that anyone who needs assistance with the technology will have assistance available. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
And once again, to reiterate, the decisions that I am making, first and foremost, the clearinghouse is Commissioner Helen Calton-Harris. You know, we're erring on the side of public health, medicine, and the sciences. So I know sometimes this is a little aggravating to individuals and families that are affected with sometimes at times nasty calls or nasty emails. Constructive criticism, fine. But we're doing this for the goodness of you and your family. So on the sports pause, it is a pause. And once we get the clearance, working with Helen, we'll continue to move forward, as with the Sea Arena and other activities. Everybody's been great, but there are some that I don't think you realize that we are in a pandemic right now. And we do not like the trends of the positive testing that is happening in a much younger age. So patience is a virtue, which sometimes I don't have, obviously, but you need to have it. And think of yourself and think of your family member or child that could be affected. So once we get the okay, we'll open back up. At this point in time now, I'll bring up Patrick Sullivan, who is the Director of Facilities and Parks. Done a tremendous job with his team. He's one, like many of my cabinet heads, they've been able to touch and work with every department. So the Director of Facilities and Parks Management, Patrick Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. This past week, the state contacted our Department of Public Health and informed Helen that there were hockey teams exposed to the COVID-19 virus. So we met with the mayor, and it was decided to close Sea Arena down in the efforts to keep everyone safe, and we are performing a deep cleaning of all the public areas in that building this week. and we will meet to decide if we can open next week or the week after. We are completing the review of the school building plan with our industrial hygienist, and it's our goal to be presenting this to the school committee a week from Thursday. We also, at the mayor's request, and it was myself and Helen and Tim Sheen at this meeting, we had a presentation on UV light cleaners. And what this is, it's a piece of equipment that has UV light that you can pass over desktops in cafeterias and tables. So we're going to vet that with our industrial hygienist to see if the science indicates that this would be a best practice. And then in non-COVID news, as the mayor indicated, Science and Technology High School and Talmadge have been invited by the MSBA for window projects. So I appreciate the mayor's efforts in supporting these projects along with our CAFO TJ plant. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you, Director Sullivan. School Committee woman Latonia Naylor was also part of that and had brought an individual in. We're doing at other schools. So let's see what happens with that LV lighting as we prepare to keep our buildings open and open buildings when it is properly safe and sound. You received the financial update I gave earlier for my CAFO TJ plan, and you've received my legal, HR, and labor update, briefly status quo from Solicitor Pakula I gave earlier, and Attorney Bill Mahoney. I mentioned unemployment. Helen went over the states that are okay now. So with that, I'm going to close. Again, Springfield's in the business of doing business. We're still keeping economic development moving forward. And at the helm of that, and doing an outstanding job, is Chief Development Officer Tim Sheehan.
Thank you, Mayor. As the mayor indicated, there's a sense that there's a bit of an uptick in the Springfield's homeless population. To respond to that, we'll be meeting with the organizations that we subcontracted with to do outreach and have that done in a coordinated way in conjunction with the police commissioner and her team. And also, we've been advancing all of the contracting and the payments for the assistance that we've put out to date, and I want to thank the Community Development Department for processing all that information and getting checks out as quickly as possible. Finally, it's my understanding that the Senate will be taking up a relief package this week. We remain hopeful that that relief package will be in alignment with what came out of the House of Representatives. And it seems that the administration is, the White House has now indicated that they're in support of a much larger package, and we hope that that will pass the Senate. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Sheehan. Thanks, Director Sheehan. Over the weekend, did have conversations with Congressman Neal, Chairman Neal Ritchie, Saturday morning. We spoke, and again, they're holding steadfast that they want to get a package in and an amount that's going to tackle all the issues that we face federally, state, and local. So I appreciate Congressman Neal, Chairman Neal's efforts. As Director Sheehan indicated, maybe hopefully a number can be reached that hits all the categories that will be very helpful to the city of Springfield. So appreciate Ritchie's continued efforts. With that, we will open it up to any questions or comments you might have, my cabinet heads or myself. Paul?
Mayor, as Dr. Carroll mentioned, Mayor Walsh in Boston last week indicated that the city will crack down on house parties.
Yeah.
Finding both landlords and tenants if they can work out the proper legal authority to do that. What are you seeing in terms of that issue with the city of Springfield? Is house parties and that sort of thing driving some of this increase that we're seeing today?
What we have seen, as Helen indicated, there's an uptick of people getting together in homes. What we will do, as we've done with other issues, if we have the hotline and obviously the police line, if something is to seem to be getting out of control or is just too much, besides educating, then we would go with health and police if necessary. I don't think we've seen what Mayor Walsh has seen up in Boston. His numbers have really, knock on wood, exploded up there, and he's had it. So, but Helen is constantly out visiting businesses, and when police are out there also, if a call comes. That's another thing when we're speaking to our neighborhood councils, we've told them that too, about to be cognizant if, on house parties that are just not being done properly or getting out of control. So we've been successful in educating. We are not afraid. If we have to come down with the hammer, then we will in the name of public health. I mean, this is a pandemic. Helen and the health department have enormous powers. It gives me the opportunity for enormous powers to use if we have to use them. I don't know if Helen or Commissioner Clapper wants to comment on that at all. So that's where we're at with that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I was curious, so we're saying that at establishments, the restaurant in Springfield itself, and it said that the count on the people at table still sits.
Yes.
I don't know that had been previously announced. Is there any other, maybe not full restaurant that's available where, I know we can't use some of them because of their status and
Red.
the state, but some of those things were discretionary despite being red, so I wasn't sure if there was any.
Yeah, I'll let Helen come too. I'm happy, Matt, that maybe a week or 5 days, the numbers have started to tick down again, which is good, because we had that 2-week period that really shot up. So then we put a pause to stay on phase 3, step 1 on it. But if the numbers continue, hopefully, to trend down, then maybe we can look at that. Anything that you've seen on certain things, if there's a question, we've had meetings with Helen, myself, and the licensing people about what can be done. If there's a complaint that comes in, we do review it, and we do go take a look at it. Sometimes it's so, sometimes it's not. We're trying that balancing act of being able to keep public health going, but also being able to continue to prop up our economic development, keep our businesses going too. But I think the big thing here, and I'm going to bring Helen up, is it's almost going to be done on parallel tracks, because if you can't, and we will, you knock down this COVID-19, you're not going to have the full business confidence, public confidence, nor consumer confidence on it. But Helen, and I'll bring Helen up, she's indicated a lot of the increase we receive is not coming from establishments. Dr. Kerouac mentioned it too. Whether it's restaurants or stores, they seem to be following the guidelines. It's these house parties. But I don't know if Helen wants to comment. Good. On it.
And just in that same vein, I know that Eastern Connecticut is experiencing something like an increase as well. And they weren't as hard initially.
Yeah.
It was initially hard. One of the things they were seeing down there was an increase in cases of people like in break rooms,
Yeah.
workplaces, then a little bit of people traveling in the same cars together. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if we were seeing any of that in Springfield.
I know some establishments have, let's just say, car establishments or repair establishments. I understand now that there are those, break room or waiting rooms, some of them, a lot of them are not open. You can wait with outside, or you can wait in the showroom on that. I have not heard of any major upticks that are occurring. When people are practicing that, again, about the social distancing and wearing the masks and the hand washing. Commissioner Clapper, we talked about today, preparing, always being prepared for any type of intel that, she still has, we are running one man or one woman cars. Now we're 2, and we got to be cognizant of that. If there's an expansion of that, if there's an uptick, are you going to do that? But we haven't, I'm not aware of it. Helen will get a lot of the, if there's an uptick that really shows a red flag, she lets me know. We're not aware. But I know like a lot of businesses are now, they don't have the waiting room areas. Some of them, the break room areas there, well, the weather holds, you can see that some people, they put tables outside for their workers. So I don't know, we're experiencing a huge uptick on that, but we have to be cognizant of it.
What would your message be to there, people who may still be planning to do some form of holiday
Well, don't do it. I mean, you don't do the door-to-door. You could see a lot of surrounding, we were the first out of the block. You could see a lot of surrounding areas, and I said, oh, do you know what? Right, don't do the door-to-door trick-or-treating. I mean, again, why would you want to put yourself or your family in harm's way? You're seeing that the trend is lower in ages now contracting this COVID-19. You might be going, we share it with our first responders, you could be going to a house that has COVID-19 or somebody who's contracted that. So they should not do that. We have okayed, with Commissioner Helen Carlton-Harris and working with all of the various departments, through my licensing director, attorney Alicia Days, a couple of events. I know the United Way event, Paul Mina, I'm very appreciative, and I believe there's another event that the C3 Force, but this has all been okayed, and as how they know exactly how they have to do it on the really non-interaction, because we wanted to do something for our kids. But if you're going to have don't door-to-door trick-or-treating, no. If you, as Dr. Kerouac said, you feel you're doing something in your home, I mean, I would advise against it unless it's people that directly in your family or you have been with, but hopefully this is the last year that we have to look at curtailing holiday traditions. But it unfortunately has to be done. So there should be, and again, no door-to-door trick-or-treating occurring here in the city of Springfield, in the name of public health and safety for the residents of the city of Springfield. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. There's many other things. I know it's on our websites. Commissioner Helen Carlton-Harris has put things out, how you can do Halloween-type celebration. Maybe for the younger kids, you know what? Read a Halloween book to them, or have them read a book to you. I think that would be fantastic. But it's, you know, I mean, some people think it's a rite of passage. It's not a rite of passage. The rite of passage is making sure you and your family stay healthy right now. And that's what we're going to continue to do. And we will defeat this COVID-19. We'll get back to celebrations. We'll get back to family traditions. We'll get back to holiday traditions. This thing is still not gone away. I'm glad that our numbers have started to go down a bit. They still need to go down more so we can get out of the red, get back to the yellow, kick into the green, and then just get rid of this forsaken COVID-19 coronavirus. So Helen has said it. Again, there is no door-to-door trick-or-treating allowed in the city of Springfield. Subsequently, many surrounding areas are doing the same thing. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, again, I really want to give a big thank you out to the media, the TV media, the radio media, the print media. Thanks for getting this information out. To our sign language individuals, you know, we deeply appreciate that you're here, and we just wanted to give you a little something on it. To my cabinet heads all the way down to rank and file, thank you. Tested and true, and day in and day out, you're providing under challenging, surreal situations, and I appreciate that. To the residents and business community of the city of Springfield, thank you. I know it's aggravating. I'm very aggravated too. But your patience, cooperation, collaboration is working. And again, I know you heard it from the professionals, Dr. Kerouac, Dr. Roos, Commissioner Helen Carlton-Harris, but I can't say it enough. They made some great analogies. Driving in the snow, driving your car. Wear the masks, okay? Don't make this political. This is about public health. It's about you and your family. Wear the mask when you're out and about. I have a mask on me at all times. Even when I'm taking a walk, if I need it, it goes on. Wash your hands. Try to keep that 6-foot physical or social distancing if you can. If you don't feel good, stay home. If you feel you have more than that feeling good, there is plenty of opportunity for you to get tested. And when you do get tested at that point in time, you need to self-quarantine until you get back that results. So I know it's been, well over 8 months now. We're in our 8th month of it. But we need this continued cooperation and collaboration moving forward. I know we're hopeful of a vaccine coming about this coming quarter, but in the meantime, as I said before, I think the fashion statement is going to be masks. And for, again, the holiday season, I know it's a special time for each and every one of us, but you're really going to have to curtail what you're going to do and who you're going to have over, for this upcoming year. 2020 is nearly done, thank God. It wasn't good 2020 vision. We wanted in the rearview mirror. 2021 will be much better. You need a flu shot, get your flu shot. I did it last week. Painless, and I feel fine. And vote. Go out there and vote. No matter what issue, which way you vote. So you can vote early. City Hall, we're doing it, and our polls will be open. They were safe and sound. I always go to the polls. So flu shots, vote, adhere to the public health and safety guidelines. With that, good health and God bless, and go out and have a great day. Thank you very much.